Who dares disturb me from my year-long, well-earned sabbatical?
Oh, I guess I can talk about it. Alright, before we start, I'm just going to be talking straight spoilers from the beginning. So if you care about spoilers, just come back and watch after you've seen the movie. Good? Let's begin. This movie is not very good. Okay, fine, let's actually talk about it. Kung Fu Panda 4 is not a bad movie, but it is a bad Kung Fu Panda movie, and I believe it is due to a plethora of problems. Let's start with... The main theme of our movie this time is change. And to be honest, I actually think a story centered around being comfortable with change and accepting it is a good concept, but the way it's handled just feels so amateur. It becomes very apparent, very fast, that all the writing choices made for the story were made to either insert new characters to use for future movies, or because a writer or director thought something was cool and cobbled it together. The focus of our story is built around Shifu telling Po he needs to pick a successor to become the new Dragon Warrior, since he is now supposed to be spiritual leader of the valley. Po, though, is very against this idea because he feels like the Dragon Warrior is who he is and always will be. But hold up, why does Po even need to pick a new Dragon Warrior? It's not like there was a Dragon Warrior before Po when Oogway was the spiritual leader. And don't try to give me a reason that links to the shows or other media. Anything that isn't in the movies is not canon. The whole plot of the first 3 movies is the fact that it was Po's destiny to become the Dragon Warrior. I mean, Oogway even says in Kung Fu Panda 3,
"On the first day we met, I saw the future of Kung Fu. And the past, I saw the panda who could unite them both. That is why I chose you, Po. Both sides of the yin and yang. And my true successor."
It was never just some title given out. It was a title that was held by the one who was destined to restore balance to Valley of Peace, the surrounding areas, and the residents who lived there by defeating Tai Lung, Shen, and Last Kai. After his talk with Shifu, Po then meets our new protagonist, a thieving fox named Zhen, played by Awkwafina. He barely beats her in a fight and throws her in jail. After this, Po learns of the existence of the main villain from Zhen, named the Chameleon, played by Viola Davis. She's a shape-shifting sorceress posing as Tai Lung and various other characters to do evil things, I guess. Although the most evil thing she did was, shove a guy down some stairs. Pretty politely, I might add. Next, we have the Chameleon's whole motivation. She wants to use the Staff of Wisdom to unlock a portal to the Spirit Realm and take the soul energy of masters, because that's apparently where the knowledge of Kung Fu lives. You know, in people's spirits or something. But why does the Chameleon want Kung Fu from all the masters? Well, it's because apparently no master wanted to teach her Kung Fu because she was too small. Too small? To learn Kung Fu? When this guy exists? Did the writers forget this guy existed? Or Viper? I mean, they do mention them, like, at the beginning of the movie at some point, but, like, come on. I've seen some people try and argue that the real reason she wasn't taught Kung Fu was because she was not talented at it, and that was the real reason she pursued sorcery. But to that I say, where are you pulling that plot out of? That's not how writing works. We don't see any indication in the movie that she was bad at Kung Fu or that she was unskilled. The audience shouldn't have to make up plot points for the story to be cohesive and sensible. The Staff of Wisdom is treated as a plot device MacGuffin that basically has magic properties that only the wielder can use. The staff must be willingly given to another person for the magic properties to still work. I kinda have some problems with that as well though, because it doesn't make any sense. The Staff of Wisdom was never a magic staff that could grant the user magical powers. It was meant as a visual and story moment that was meant to signify the passing of the torch from Oogway to Po, and the conclusion of his character arc and growth. The soundtrack that plays in Kung Fu Panda 3 during that moment is even called Passing the Torch. It feels like the writers didn't understand how Chi worked in the third movie, and instead were just like, well, Oogway used, like, magical powers in that one scene when he was using that staff, and Po was able to cross between the mortal realm and the spirit realm, so the staff must be magical. It feels like a poorly written fanfiction. The reason I said that the writers didn't understand how Chi works is because the entire third movie revolves around the fact that Chi is something of a lost art that was once incredibly prevalent among pandas specifically. It's not something that just lives inside a magic item that anyone can use. If that was the case, then the whole plot of the third movie would have been Po trying to find the magic item to defeat Kai, instead of having to learn it organically. The rules of the world were already put in place. The writers just chose to either ignore it because they didn't care enough or because they weren't good at writing. I should add that Poe as a character in this movie doesn't feel like he has much to offer, while the arc they try to give him in this movie feels tacked on. He still feels like Poe, but it definitely gives off a direct-to-DVD vibe. Anyways, the rest of the story is Jen and Poe going to Juniper City, since apparently she's the only one who knows where the chameleon is. Insert super generic backstory for Jen, being an orphan on the streets, learning to survive. After that we get some action scenes, and then suddenly, Poe gets trapped and boom! Jen takes Poe's Staff of Wisdom and gives it to the chameleon. Well, she was working with her all along, who could have guessed? Fast forward, Jen feels bad and tries to reconcile with Poe. I don't really care to talk about Jen that much as a character, or any thief characters associated with her, because I feel like she has the depth of a puddle and the complexity of an escape room that has like one lock and a key in the middle of the room. After this, the chameleon knocks Poe off the cliff of her castle, and we get two of the worst lines back to back. The chameleon asks Jen what the second rule of the streets is, and Jen replies, "Someone always gets hurt." Then she asks her what the third rule is, and Jen is confused, and the chameleon replies, and I quote, "No one is interested in your feelings." Damn. It's kinda harsh. Right after this, the chameleon uses the staff to open a portal to the spirit realm, where we see Tai Lung, and you might be thinking, well, look, it's Tai Lung. This is all I ever wanted. Hold that thought though, because what we get is just audience pandering, because not only does Tai Lung barely serve any story purpose, but all of his dialogue seems off. It's as if he was written by someone who saw Kung Fu Panda once, 10 years ago, and was told to write dialogue for him. It doesn't have his regular imposing presence or any good dialogue. He's relegated as movie bait and then shoved aside once the chameleon steals his kung fu by putting her tongue on him and taking his kung fu spirit or whatever. I don't even know how this makes any sense. Apparently, it's not like kung fu is something that is ingrained in one's mind. It lives in one's spirit, and once she has taken that spirit, they can no longer do kung fu. I should also add that Shen and Kai are both present as well, but this also raises a ton of questions since they both technically shouldn't be there. Shen straight up died instead of ascending or being sent to the spirit realm, and Kai was obliterated when Poe gave him all of his chi in the spirit realm. But I digress. Let's suspect a Poe, who actually almost falls to his death, but his two dads come in to pull him to safety. After this, we actually get a good moment, I dare say. Ping gives Poe a good old emotional Kung Fu Panda talk, but this one is about change, and how it's okay when things don't turn out the way you want them to steer Poe onto the right path again. Although the talk is good, it definitely doesn't hit as hard as any previous film, because at the moment, Poe was just moping about losing his staff and not wanting to lose his title of Dragon Warrior, compared to, accepting that losing his entire village and family doesn't have to define who he is now. After this, Poe and Jen actually reconcile, and Jen calls Poe her friend, which I don't buy for a second. The soothsayer from Kung Fu Panda 2 had more friend chemistry with Poe than Jen has. After this, they fight the chameleon, and it is a good fight scene, I'll give it that. Seeing the chameleon shift between different characters while fighting is fun to watch, at least. The fight ends with Poe getting trapped and telling Jen she has to finish the fight, and we get kind of a similar scene to that one in the Goofy movie with the perfect cast, where she does the move that Poe was teaching her earlier in the movie. She does her wind-up and yells, "Skablam," and shoots a golden dragon from the Staff of Wisdom and basically wins. Poe then returns all the masters to the spirit realm, and him and Tai Lung share some words, and it's the most out-of-character dialogue in the entire film. Tai Lung says, "Maybe Oogway was right about you." How could they do my boy like this? Shifu doesn't even appear until the very end of the movie, so we don't even get a Shifu and Tai Lung reunion. They couldn't even be bothered to do that. The Spirit Masters all bow to him, and then Poe and Jen return back to the Valley of Peace, where he chooses her as his successor. I just wish the writers gave us a reason to believe that Jen deserved to even have the role of Dragon Warrior in the first place. Poe was able to defeat his antagonist and bring peace to Shifu, his family, and friends by being himself. He was able to harness the power of the Dragon Scroll and find inner peace by accepting himself despite viewing himself as a failure his whole life, along with all the hardships he faced in the past. I say this because I don't think we even got an arc for Jen. What was her arc? That she was on the chameleon's side and raised an orphan, and now she decided that she doesn't want to do that anymore? What traits does she even have that makes her worthy to hold this title? We will never know. Because that's it. The end. That's the movie. Just kidding, I didn't talk about the best part of the movie on purpose, baby! Mr. Ping and Lee are probably the best part of the movie. Not only are they in character the whole time, but any screen time they share was the highlight for me. They follow Poe because they believe he's in over his head a bit, so we get to see them roughly trace where Po has been throughout the movie, eventually catching up to him and saving his life. Okay, now that's the movie. Now that we are done with the story, I want to move on to another thing that I don't feel like I've seen enough people talk about, which is... I think visually, this movie is a complete downgrade from the previous movies. The designs don't really feel like they fit Kung Fu Panda designs, especially Zhen. She feels like she's from Sing or Zootopia, while the lighting keys feel so much less inspired and more muted. Kung Fu Panda is known for its beautiful visuals and the way it uses color as theming, but here everything looks like there was either not enough direction for what the palette should be, or there was too much focus in the wrong direction. On top of this, the environments just look weird. What happened to our realistic Chinese architecture that gave the background so much character and life? Instead, we have a generic city with a generic look. It's as if they were trying to do something new without fully committing to it, and in the end it just ended up looking cheap instead of something intentional. Even the fur and some of the textures seemed like there was less effort put into them. This movie did have a reduced budget compared to all the previous films, so that might have contributed to the lackluster look. The chameleon's transformations were good though. I like them. Everything about the movie just felt slightly off in every category, and it's super disappointing. I know I'm basically nitpicking, but as someone who is in the animation/games industry, I'm extremely passionate about this stuff. Seeing a franchise I give high praise to pump out a crappy money-making sequel just hurts to see. This unfortunately is just something we will always eventually see, since executives and even directors often see animation as children's media instead of what it is, a medium to tell stories. Now you might be wondering how this happened to Kung Fu Panda. Well, surprisingly, I also have the answer to that. Let's talk about... We got a ton of information from a Q&A with the co-director, Stephanie Ma Stein, that sheds a lot of light on why we got the movie we got. A lot of her answers allude to the fact that the main director, Mike Mitchell, is the reason the movie turned out the way it did. He was the reason we basically didn't get the Furious 5 in the movie, and the reason why Kai and Shen even showed up, even when they basically shouldn't have. Mike Mitchell basically had so much control because he was an executive producer and the main director. He had more swing and more say in the matter, and I think the situation is perfectly surmised by this one question and answer from the Q&A specifically. Question: what would a Kung Fu Panda film look like with total creative freedom in your opinion, or at least more of it? Answer: a Kung Fu Panda film with total creative freedom? Haha, that depends on the director. Kung Fu Panda 4 is what you get with a director who had total creative freedom. Kung Fu Panda 2 is what you get when Jen Yu Nelson had near total creative freedom. I don't think Mike Mitchell is a bad director. After all, he also directed Shrek Forever After, and I believe that's a great animated movie.
To the roar!
I just don't think he fully understands the Kung Fu Panda franchise. Making any form of media is always a hard task. There are so many moving parts that contribute to making something tangible, and productions will always have ups and downs. It's just unfortunate when you have someone who doesn't understand a franchise, it ends up becoming something completely different than its previous installments. Total creative freedom is always a double-edged sword. I just hope that if we do get future installments that they are treated with as much love and care as possible. But maybe that's also the lesson the movie was trying to teach us, that change will happen whether we like it or not, so we can either face it head on or hide away from it. Nah, the movie just kinda sucks. I give it like a 5.5 out of 10.